Well, hello everyone. So, this is Rose Spirit's guidance for March full moon. And Rose Spirit is saying that some of the guidance in this reading will apply about 3 to 5 months into the future. So, do keep that in mind. So, Rose Spirit wants to speak about the energy that's coming in. So I'm just going to read out the cards that had come out, and I'm going to read it in the order that they popped out as I was shuffling the cards, because I feel like this is the sequence of the energy flow that you will be experiencing. So the first card is Work Through Your Fears. The next one is A New Start is Coming. And the final one is the energy is gaining momentum. So that makes sense because as you work through your fears and you release old stagnant energies and blocks, then there's this bigger, massive room for new opportunities and new beginnings to come in, a new start to happen. And once that new beginning or new cycle happens in your life, that's when the energy is going to gain momentum, and it's going to really propel you forward into the direction that you need to go. But it all starts with letting go of the fears. So start to ask yourself, what's really holding you back? What are the blocks? What's really frustrating you? And try to identify the fear that is generating within you as you experience those blocks. And once you identify the fear, ask yourself when it first started. When was your first experience of that fear or a similar form of that fear? And then look into what you are learning from that fear. It's always important to do that. Always ask yourself, what am I learning from this fear or this block or challenge? And I've learned it, so I'm ready to let it go. But if there's some fear still lingering, ask yourself why you are hanging on to that fear. When we ask ourselves, why am I hanging on to this fear? We're distancing ourselves even further from it because we are acknowledging it and we are putting the space between ourselves and those fears. And sooner or later, when you do that consistently, you might find yourself releasing yourself from that fear completely. So you might find yourself healing yourself all on your own just by acknowledging the fear, seeing the learnings in it, and saying to yourself, I'm actually ready to let that go because I don't need it anymore. So try to identify those fears that's no longer serving you. And then that's when all those beautiful new beginnings will come in. So the next thing that Rose Spirit wants to talk about, and she's actually called in her friends, her spirit animal friends, as she likes to call them. So we have Buffalo Spirit, Brown Bear Spirit, and Beaver Spirit who had stepped forward. Buffalo Spirit is saying the abundant universe will provide. So know that it's okay to let go of those fears because the universe is abundant and it's limitless abundance. So know that there's plenty for everyone, even for you. So keep that in mind as you release those fears. That's the key there, is to release those fears. And then the abundance, the prosperity, the opportunities, the relationships, and other wonderful things that would support your soul's evolution here on earth, they will all appear. But for some of you, before you could begin that work of identifying your fear and releasing it, you might need to actually take time out. And that's what the brown bear spirit here is saying. Take time out. So for some of you, you may need to take an hour or a day of just resting and recovering your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual energies. So however that may look like for you, we are all different and unique in our own needs and ways of doing self-care. So explore that as you find time and schedule time to rest and also restore your spiritual batteries. I'm hearing from the creator that some of you will need to take an Epsom salt bath. That's an awesome way to pull out negative energies from you, recharge your batteries. So consider taking an Epsom salt bath if you're able to. So the next spirit animal is the beaver spirit. And the beaver is talking about laying a solid foundation. And the energy of the beaver spirit is connecting really powerfully with the first three cards that we spoke about. And the beaver spirit is tapping its paw on the first card, work through your fears. So that's the foundation first that needs to happen. The foundation that needs to be laid first, which is identify your fears, let it go. So do not skip that step. It's so important to identify and become aware of the fears that are creating the blocks in our lives. And the beaver spirit here is saying one more thing, which is once all those fears are acknowledged and released in however way that you would like to release it, that's when the energy is really going to build up momentum and the abundance will come in. The brown bear spirit here is stepping in here, and she is saying not everything is an uphill climb. Sometimes you do need to take a break. So at any moment when that new cycle begins and the energy is really building its momentum and you feel a need to take a short break, do that. Because when we take breaks, that's when we recharge. And when we are resting and recharging, that's when spirit might drop in that insight that you needed so badly. And that might be the insight that solves the problem that you're experiencing. So taking time out, resting is really important. Even if it's a quick 5 or 10 minute tea break or coffee break, do it. And brown bear spirit finally sighed this relief, and she stepped back. So she really needed to say that message. So finally, Rose Spirit wants to close this with some messages from the Rose Oracle Tarot deck. And the first card that popped out says the bud. Potential, promise, it's about to happen, keep going. So again, it goes back to the energy that's gaining momentum. For some of you who are listening, I feel like the energy is gaining momentum. So a new cycle has started for you, either recently, so a few weeks back perhaps, and that energy is gaining momentum. It's in the bud. It's just sprouting, so do not give up. Just keep going. So this is just Rose Spirit's way of saying there is potential in every little action, every little steps that you are taking. So please keep going. And the word here on the bud card, the one word that's really popping out right now is promise. And that word promise is connecting with the Buffalo Spirit card about the abundance that's coming your way and how abundant the universe is. So know that. And I'm also hearing Rose Spirit say you may need to make a contract or a promise with yourself. So it could be in the form of a to-do list where you say to yourself, today I'm going to do these 2 things. That's doable to me, and it will only take a few minutes or 20 minutes. So do those little things. Those little steps do add up to something big that could come your way. The next card is release the petals. So transformation, death, and rebirth. Shedding all change. And this card is connecting very powerfully to that first card, work through your fears, because that's what you need to do. You need to shed all those, allow the fears to be released from you, and that's when the transformation is going to happen. And that's when the change, the shift will happen also. And for some of you, you may need to release and really identify the fears first, and then you'll know what you need to do next. What's the next thing that you need to do that would guide you into, let's say, your dream or your goal. So I'm just tuning into that card to see what else Rose Spirit wants to say in regards to releasing the petals, but I'm hearing her say she said everything that she needed to say. So moving on to the final and last card here, the Rose of Venus. alignment, flow, right relationship, harmony. So, how appropriate this card had popped out right after the Release the Petals card, because alignment, flow, and harmony, they cannot happen unless you release the fears and the blocks first. So, I know you might be really sick and tired of hearing this by now, but go to that step one, acknowledge the fear. If you're unable to acknowledge the fear, identify what you're frustrated with or what your blocks or challenges are right now in your life, and then see what's the fear underneath it. And the Rose Spirit is saying, know that alignment, harmony, and flow are all coming once you release all those fears. So I wish you many beautiful spiritual adventures as you release your fears and invite abundance in.